So today we're going to look at 3 things. And these are 3 things that you need to understand when looking at your website, or when talking to somebody that's going to build your website, or when looking at a website proof that they send to you. So the first thing that we're going to look at is we're going to look at UI and UX. And you're like, what in the world is that? It's really simple. User interface, UI, user experience, UX. And we're going to talk about that, break that down, and show you all the get you to understand like what you need to look for and what you need to look at, because you don't want a cruddy site. You don't want a site that doesn't convert. We're going to also talk about how to start simple with the SEO. Okay. We want to stay simple with the SEO. We want to start in the beginning. We want that website from the get-go, because remember, Google is going to crawl it whether you like it or not. Google's worms are going to find it, and they're going to crawl that site whether you want them to or you don't want them to. There's only a few ways to keep them off your site, but you really do want them to crawl it, but you want it set up correctly. So Google says, ooh, this is somebody I want to refer people to. And then we're going to also talk about how to connect it all to an automation and a human. That's key. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute here. But the big question is, who is this for? Okay, guys, who is this for? Because you might be sitting there saying, I don't need to learn how to build a website, and I'm not going to teach you how to build a website. What I'm going to teach you how to do is to understand a website. So everybody who owns a business, runs a business, leads a business, operates in a business on any level that has any type of management or leadership abilities needs to understand this. This is the basics of understanding your customer and understanding the funneling of them from a suspect or a prospect to a lead, to a warm lead, to somebody that signs a contract, to somebody that is a deal. Okay. Because remember, it's not just like, oh, I got a deal in the pipeline. No, you have a prospect in the pipeline. And so even if you pay somebody else to do all this stuff, you need to understand it. Because what about if you're paying them something and they're just selling you nothing? Like, it's not actually working. It's not actually good. Now, some of you might push back and say, I understand this, but I don't think that I need to understand all this. I'm just not techie. I'm just not into this kind of thing. That's okay. You don't have to be techie to understand this. What you have to understand is how to steer a ship, because how can you lead your team and steer a ship and run a business and get it to where you want it to go if you don't even know how to take the wheel? So those are the 3 things we're looking at. Looking at UI, UX, we're looking at the simple SEO, and we're looking at the automation and the human behind it. So we're going to dive first into UI and UX. Like I said before, UI, user interface, UX, user experience. Pretty simple, pretty basic. But what do those mean? See, I could spend the rest of the day telling you about this. I could spend the rest of your week telling you about this. Okay, we could spend probably 4 or 5 months doing classes every single day to really understand the in-depth side of UI, UX when it comes to all this. But I'm not going to do that. Don't worry. I'm going to break it down into some simple stuff. So we're going to break down the user interface first. So user interface must be clear, familiar, consistent, forgiving, and efficient. So clear. Think about it this way. When you visit a website, when you look at your website, all the visual elements and functions have to be clear. You have to understand, oh, that makes sense. The message is clear. They work with people who want to sell their home. Like, I have seen some people try to get fancy on their copy and fancy on their wording, and it's not clear. Fancy on their buttons, fancy on their graphics. And then I can't even read the words because the graphics are so fancy. You have to ask yourself, will users question the use of a specific element? So if there's a button on there, will they sit there and go, what is that? You don't want questions. Here's why you've got goldfish visiting your site. These people are sitting on your site and they give you a split second to say, am I going to stay here or am I going to jump? The faster they jump, the faster Google says, that's probably not the best site to send them to. Sites have to be familiar. Okay, UI needs to be familiar. The user interface, the way it looks, the structure of the page needs to be familiar. It's got to come off of the user's past experience. Think about that. So don't go out and try to pave your own road. Like if you're like paving a road here and saying, I'm going to create the coolest site, the bar is going to be at the very bottom only. And they will have to scroll way down because I want it out of the way. And I want this at top. And it has like people do this all the time. And it sounds so stupid, but it's true. And in the industry of websites, I watch it happen. And I'm like, why the heck did you put that there? It's got to be familiar for them. Don't pave the way. Use the path that's used, that everybody else is using. Follow the familiarity of it. You don't try to be a genius. Okay, it's simple. Keep it simple. It's not easy. It's simple. Okay, wait, what just happened there? Do you see that? I went from familiar to consistent, and everything changed on the page. Do you see my point? Like your eyes have to adjust. It's like, wait, where did everything go? Your eyes have to go, and it's confusing. So it should go from here to here. And people do this all the time. They don't stay consistent in their marketing, in their site, in their pages. I've been to sites where you go to one page and the brand of the one page doesn't fit the brand of the 5 other pages on the site. It's just like, wait, what were they thinking? Like, why did they do that? And instead of trying to do something new or just being confusing, be consistent. Be consistent across all your pages and be consistent in your marketing. And when I say that, I mean that for something, let's say example of Facebook post. If you have a Facebook post that posts about a house and you want to send them to a page and convert that person from a post or an ad or anything like that, and that post is one color and the page is a totally different color, that post has one picture and the page they are sent to has something totally different. Yeah, could it be a different house? Yeah, that's okay. I'd actually prefer to say very similar, but it can be okay if it goes to a different house. But let's say it goes from a house on the outside to, I'm just trying to think of somebody like a plumber working on the house or somebody underneath their kitchen sink. And you're trying to convey that your house needs repairs. You might be doing that, but you're not doing that first. It's only for the people that sit and think about it that you're conveying that to. And you don't want people to have to think about this. It's consistency. It's a house in disrepair going to a house in disrepair, not to a plumber or a person fixing the under sink. It's got to be forgiving. Okay, if somebody clicks the wrong button or goes to the wrong place, they need to be able to get back to where they're going. They can't feel trapped. Do you know how often I get into a website and I feel trapped? Like I click through it and I'm like ridiculous. Like I kind of just click because I like to see what it does because I'm a little geeky on that side. But you don't want people to feel trapped. That's why and I'm just going to drop you something here. And usually funnels are a one-way website. Basically, it's a path from the beginning to the end to get a sale. Versus a website that has multiple things on it, multiple pages, and you can click through from each page. But many times people will use funnels to do things because they're sold that funnels do everything. But the truth be told, you have too many steps in a funnel and somebody feels really trapped. And they're just like, oh, stop offering me stuff. Stop selling me stuff. Stop doing this. Oh my gosh, this is like the 5th upsell. Have you ever been in a room? Give me a why in the comments if you've ever been on somebody's funnel and literally you're like on the 3rd or 4th upsell and you're like, are you kidding with me? Can you please stop? Can you please stop trying to sell me something new? I just bought, I wanted this and I wanted that. And so that you don't want your website to be like that. You don't want it to be in that place where you're sitting there and you're confused and you don't know what's happening next. It needs to happen next. And it needs to be forgiving. It also needs to be efficient. Okay. Your visitors need to have like the easiest and quickest way to the thing. Okay. Easiest and quickest way to the thing. So what I'm saying here is think about this. Do you want 6 forms in? Like, do you want to ask how many bedrooms it is and how many bathrooms it is and how many? Can't you find that information really quick? Like, take it off of their plate. Like, a lot of people will say, oh, but if they put more information in, then they're more serious. That's not always true. They're more desperate if they put more information in. Not always true. Efficiency for your people. The first form needs to be basic. Address. It needs to have a name, and it needs to have a phone number, a way you can contact them. You don't even have to have an email. Unless you have some really crazy reason for the email. In the beginning, don't ask for the email. Get that later. Get the phone number. And so it's an address, a name, and a phone number. And you can, if you would like, the email, but it's just in most markets, we see it kind of draw back a little bit. It's like, wait, why do you need my email? I want you to call me. I want to talk to you about my house. And then the next form, you can have a next form, yes, but ask other questions. Why are you selling? Is this house listed? You don't ask how many bedrooms. I see that too often. How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? How many square feet? You guys are investors. like you know how to find that info. Like, that's easy. You just jump in Deal Machine or PropStream. Heck, you can go on Zillow and find that information. That is public knowledge. Ask them the questions that isn't on Zillow. Why are you selling? Now you're going to see why they're selling. But that's not on the first form. That's the second form. Okay? Never on the first form, because you want it to be easy from the get-go. Now we're going to dive into user experience. Let's take a look at this user experience. So user experience must be purposeful, reasonable, pleasing, and useful. Purposeful. The design, the experience that they have, the design and the structure must have a purpose. When they look at it, they must see a purpose for it. Because if they don't see a purpose, they're jumping, they're leaving. And Google's pinging you and saying, oh, they didn't keep very good traffic there. I sent them somebody and they didn't keep it. And that's on the SEO side and the PPC side, both. Okay. That's not just on the PPC side. Google tracks everything. Trust me, they track everything. They're paying attention to the web right now. And so that is something that you have to remember. The purpose is just so important, because what I find people do is somebody comes to a site and they grab them at the top, and then the person scrolls down to just check it out. And they change the purpose. They change the reason. They change the call to action. It has to be reasonable. Do you know your user and how they think and how they work? User experience, the user experience has to be reasonable. You have to understand how they think and how they work. And that's that whole asking for bedrooms thing. See, these mix, UI and UX mix, it intertwines. Has to be pleasing. Okay. Your website has to be pleasing in some way. Now, it doesn't always, this is really weird, but it doesn't always have to be fully pleasing on the eyes when somebody looks at it. But there has to be a reason, an emotion that comes from looking at it. Okay. That emotion might be, it's quick and it's easy. That emotion might be, oh, wow, look at all the stars they get. Look at all the testimonies that are real testimonies, because people can spot fake ones. Okay. And if you put a stock image with a testimony many times, and I've been getting on a lot of people about this many times, what people will do is they'll see it and they'll be like, oh, I know that's fake, so the testimony must be fake. Emotions, what thoughts, what feelings, what visuals, what things are people seeing? And I don't also mean, and I want you to think about this, I don't want you to think, oh, well, I don't like the way that color looks with that graphic over there, and it personally just bothers me. Okay, personal doesn't matter. You got to step outside of yourself, and you got to look at it from a broad perspective of your people. And it's got to be useful. If an element doesn't make sense on a page, if it doesn't solve a problem, just do away with it. I know it's so easy to say, oh, but I think this would be so cool, and I really want this. Don't waste your time on it. Okay, don't. It's not how long can I keep them on my site. It's yes, I want to keep them on my site, but I want to convert them on my site. You know, you're not running a business where you want people to just sit on your site for hours and play games. You're running a business that you want people to actually convert. So I want to take a look at a few practical applications. This is actually not a site that we built. It's very similar to sites that we have built and that we do build, but I actually picked it because I was picking it apart for somebody, and I was talking to him about some of the different things that he could change and stuff like that, and to make it better and to make it rank better. So the first thing that we're going to look at, before we do that, I added this slide in because I wanted to bring you back to that mindset again. And I want you to step outside your own opinion of, I don't like the color orange, because if you have that opinion, then I'm sorry, but it's orange. If you don't like color blue, I'm sorry, it's blue. That doesn't make it a bad site just because you don't like that color. What we have to figure out is why that doesn't work, not what don't you like. So step out your own opinion and look at it objectively, not subjectively. Now we can talk about the thing. All right. So site real estate. So top right corner, great thing. Got a phone number here. Don't call the phone number. He even told me not live. And I said, uh-oh. And so don't call the phone number. Don't do that. But don't call it anyways, because I don't want to swamp anybody's phone no matter what, even if it goes live. But my point is make sure that phone number goes somewhere. The top right corner is your best real estate on your site. It is the best spot. It is like literally lakeside. If you're looking at a lake view house or an ocean view house, like those are the best to sell, right? It doesn't even matter if it's a crappy house. They're awesome to sell. Top right corner is your best real estate. Put your best stuff there. Call us now. Okay. That's fast action, but it's got to go somewhere. So I'm going to work with them on making sure that's hooked up to something, and going to make sure that it's hooked up to a system that also does text back. Okay. So you can't answer 100% of your calls. I don't care what you say. Many people will tell me, oh yeah, I answer all my calls. No, you don't. I've gotten that from people. And believe me, just for fun, I might harass them because, hey, let's see. Do they answer all their calls? From every phone number I call them from. Let's see. You don't answer all your calls. You might be busy sometime. You might be sleeping. So make sure it goes somewhere. And if you can't answer, it texts them back and says, hey, how can I help you? I see I missed your call. It engages them. You have seconds to engage them. You have seconds to grab them, or they're going to call the next number. And another thing that would help up here is if this had a push button, push to call. If this number was actually a button, and when they pushed it, they could call. The next thing to look at when you're looking at the real estate of the site is above the fold. You need your form above the fold. You need your call to action above the fold. The fold is literally what is on a page when somebody visits it from their computer. Now, this is sometimes hard to see because I got a big screen on my computer. But what I can do is I can try it out on my laptop. I can have my wife try it on her laptop. Like we can try it at different spots. We try it mobile. We try it here. We try it there. We make sure everything that needs to be above the fold is above the fold. The call to action and the form, especially in real estate investors, the form needs to be above the fold. You need to make sure that the call to action is easy to read. It's not bombarded by the background picture. For example, there's a nice blue block here. I actually like the design of that. It works nice. I can read it. I can see it. It makes sense. It slants nicely. Everything works nicely with this page in the graphic and pleasing sense. It's just the functionalities or certain things that we can just fix. But that's with any site. Like you're always updating. And that's why starting from a place of knowledge and understanding it is so important. And then, so keeping that above the fold, keeping that top real estate good. And then you're keeping your words and your graphics from overlapping and causing an issue with each other. And then your form is viewable. Okay. There's so many times that it's a button and then it scrolls me all the way down to the bottom of the page. Okay. Get the form on the top. I mean, you can maybe open in a pop-up. In rare occasions, I do open it in a pop-up, depending on the business, depending on the company, depending on the industry, and depending on the location. Okay. But that's not something you test around with. I've seen in real estate, investing, in all that kind of stuff. Like when it comes to fast action, just put the form there. And so you want to make sure when you're looking at the real estate of the site, when you're looking at copy, you want to make sure that the copy towards the top is the short stuff. The longer stuff starts to go down to the bottom. You get the longer copy towards the bottom and the short stuff at top. Why? Because you're trying to grip them and grab them in the beginning. Most people aren't going to get to a site and see like a book and be like, oh yeah, let me read that. That looks good. Okay. They're going to actually, it's the little words that grab them. But when Google comes to a site, guess what it says? It says, where are the words? And then it gets to a certain amount of words and it's like, oh, that's not big enough for me. Looking at site function. Let's look at the function. This site, like I said, looks pretty, looks nice. Let's get some function down on it. Let's get a Google-enabled form here. So, you know, when you type into something and you type an address in, that's the address part of the form. And when you type in, 246 5th Street, and it doesn't pop up for you, that means it's not Google enabled. Google enable your forms. It's so much faster, so much better. Click to call. I already talked about this. Click to call. Make it simple for them. They click, ring, 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 ring. Ah, shucks, they didn't answer. I'll find another one. Text back. Wait, oh, sorry, I missed your call. How can I help you? Oh, boom. Now you just turned that prospect into a lead, and the system pulled them in and said, oh, here, let's get their name. We've got their number. Let's see how we can help them. And now you're notified. Oh, you have a caller. You get a text message. You get this. You get missed call. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, better call them back. Get on one of my acquisitions guy. Get on one of my acquisitions girls. Like, get somebody on them. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. And it makes it simpler. Fully functioning site menu. Okay. This is something I see a lot. I see guys buying websites for $3,000 to $5,000. And I'm not exaggerating that price. I am being honest about that price. I know guys that come to me all the time. I've seen their sites. They spend $3,000 to $5,000 just to initially build their site. And it's no joke, a one-page site. And this links to each piece on the page. In some industries and in some spaces, that's okay. But we call that a landing page. In PPC, that works great. As a full-out site, website, that does not. Google does not like that as much. Why? Because it's one page. You're selling something. Like Google figures that out. They're really smart. And then the simple submission. Do you see how easy it is to submit on this site? It's just boom, button goes in. But what happens after it's submitted? And we're going to talk about this in a second here, but it's what happens after. Like I can submit something on a site and it go nowhere. It go to a bucket that nobody looks at. And I have seen that so many times. And people are like, oh, I don't have any leads. I'm pushing people to my website. And then it's like, oh, here they are. Oh, I didn't realize that. Colors. Make sure your colors, they don't have to be a color you love. Okay, now if it's a brand that you helped to design a little bit, then you probably will enjoy your colors. But you might have just chosen for a certain reason. Real Estate Marketing Live, I chose red for it because guess what? Red is marketing. That's like the color for marketing, red. And it's kind of an irritating color. And so it's just like, ooh, okay. It kind of hypes people up a little bit. Blue is a little more docile. And so if you're going to have a blue, just, tone it with something else, but make sure that your colors work together and that they overlay nicely. I can read this text. The readability, the words are, these ones are bolded. I'm showing people what to look at here. They're actually looking at, oh yeah, okay, I need to read this first. I need to read this first. It thinks for the people. Third grade reading level people. When you're thinking about this on a third grade reading level, you're going to actually have better conversions. You don't want the site to be written for somebody that has a PhD. Okay, that's not what, I mean, if you have like a site for scientific people only to go to, then sure, go for it. Have fun. But keep everything on any site that you're trying to convert and sell people, keep it to a third grade reading level. And if you need to run it through, can Angela actually throw this into the chat? Hemingway, the Hemingway app. If you need to run through something and see, the copy on your site, does it make, is this what grade level? Hemingway app will actually do that. Oh, there we go. I'm sorry. I was totally looking down at the comments and I pushed the button. High resolution graphic. You can't even imagine like how many sites I've seen where they put a graphic, a logo or something on the site and it's not even high res. And so it's really important that they're high res because people come here and if they see a crappy graphic or some, I mean, it's okay to use stock images, but something that hasn't been rendered correctly. Oh man. So go to tiny PNG and anything that you get graphically, like a background graphic, a logo or anything like that, and you want it to stay big on the site, what you do is you drop the file into tiny PNG. It's free. And you drop it in there and it will make it smaller. And let me tell you, if you have somebody developing your website, they may have something inside their system. They don't need tiny, but make sure you let them know about this too. If you just ask them, just say, hey, are the sites, are the images optimized for speed? And they'll possibly, hopefully know what you're talking about. But if not, just be like, hey, can you make sure those are ran through something like tiny PNG? And they might be like, oh yeah, we already have that built into our system or our builder or something like that. Like we have that in our builders. Our builders all have an optimization because we keep everything, like all of our stuff is always stored on like Google Cloud and all that stuff for speed optimization. And we make sure that those graphics are downsized before they hit the web. So let's look at the CTA. CTA is a call to action. One offer per page. Keep it to the facts, no stories. Final. One offer per page. Don't try to make 5 offers. Don't try to get them halfway down with, oh, download this and do this and do that and do this. Okay. Keep them to the offer. Okay. You can have other pages that have stuff on it. Maybe you have a checklist or this or that, but don't be like, subscribe to our real estate newsletter of the Chicago area. Okay. No, don't do that. Because most of the time people say subscribe to my newsletter and they actually don't even have a newsletter. So one offer, keep to the facts, no stories. Now you've probably heard of the book Story Branding or people talking about, oh, you need to tell the story of your business and blah, 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 blah. That's okay on your like about page. Like, go for it. Let's get it out there to the world. Let's talk about your heart. I don't know why you do this, all that stuff, but do not do it on your front page. In real estate, it will literally shatter your conversions because people are not thinking that way. They don't want to read a storybook. They want to know, okay, they'll buy my house. They'll do it for cash. They'll do a higher offer. They'll do they want to know these things. They don't want to know why you began your business. So we're done looking at the UI UX. Let's look at simple SEO. So there's 4 things here. One of them, Angela's going to hit on. So we got the first one is to use title tags properly. That's those H1s, H2s, H3s, and then the paragraph. And then you have start with 10 to 20 keywords and build from there. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about using the metadata. And this is not Facebook meta. Okay. This is metadata. It's on your page. It's a little bit different. I know it's very different, but meta just kind of decided to take that word because I guess it's cool. But anyways, Angela then will be talking in a little bit here about how to rank your photo. So using the H1, H2, H3 and paragraph tags. Okay. I just used it inside of like our builder because it was the best way to show you guys. So this is actually a screenshot from something being built inside of our builder. And you can see up here, let me see here. There we go. If you can see up here, if you can see my cursor, I think you guys can see that. I want to make sure you guys can see that. I can't see it. But anyways, I'm pointing up to the top picture, number one picture, and you've got this text right here that's in the orange, and that's normally not there. That is part of the builder, and it says H1 over top of it. That's a heading 1. Okay, so on a site when you're building one heading 1, Google looks at this and sees it and says, oh, that's their main headline of this site, main topic. Okay. In the picture number 2, we have heading 2. That's down here. Okay. That's the subtopic. Now you can have more than one H2s because it's a subtopic. So as we look further down the page, we see here, this is an H2. Types of homes we buy. That's an H2, not an H1. Okay, a lot of people get this wrong. They put an H1 there. Okay, that's not a page topic. That's a area topic. So H2. And then below that, number 2, we've got an H3. Now, obviously, people would sit here and go, okay, well, the next one's going to be H4. Wrong. Okay, H4, 5, and 6 can be used. I mean, you could stack it that way. Google's not going to penalize you and it's not going to reward you. In everything that I've seen and everybody that I've spoken to and everybody that I've collaborated with on this, you go 1, 2, and 3, and then paragraph. Okay. Cause it's just, the reason H1, H2, H3 is really set up is so that Google knows how to place the site for, anybody with a disability, anybody quick reads, so it knows how to structure the site, knows how to read through it quickly, all that kind of stuff. So then you have number 3, which is H3. So that's a subheading to the subheading. So it's literally the next heading down. And then you have a paragraph. So that'd be down here, the paragraph, which is the little paragraph symbol. So that is making sure you're looking through your pages and making sure that your builder or whoever's doing this for you, or if you have a team member, if you're doing it yourself, making sure you're using those H1s, H2, H3, and then the paragraph. And if you really want to spend a lot of extra time, you could do the H4, 5s, and 6s. But like I said, it shouldn't, I mean, not even it should. It's not an issue. Everybody I see says, and I saw myself included, says 1, 2, and 3, and then paragraph. Let's go into keywords. Let's look at those keywords, 10 to 20 keywords. Now, I just pulled a bunch of keywords that, rank in some areas. I'm not going to say you're going to go grab these keywords and they're going to rank for you. Because guess what? They're not going to perfectly rank for you because these might be pulled from a different area. Effie, you just asked how you can connect with us. We'll talk about that in a little bit, actually. But yeah, I'll actually be mentioning that in a little bit. But I want to give you value first and give you all of this stuff first, because I want you, no matter what, even if we do connect, I want you to understand this. Like, I don't care if we connect, if you guys and I connect on this, but I want you to understand this, because what I don't want is in 3 to 5 years, you coming to me and going, oh my gosh, I've been doing it this way and I didn't want to connect with you and I did it this way. And I'm like, I gave you the info. So definitely we'll connect after this, but let's jump back into these keywords. So anyways, these are from different areas. So I didn't just pull one city. Okay. But basically the way a keyword is and key phrase. So a keyword is the word and a phrase is the phrase. Okay. That's pretty simple, right? And what Google does is PPC, SEO, both sides. PPC, you get to pick them and you get to push them out there. And anybody who searches that, then people see it. With SEO, it's a little bit different. You put them on your page, you build them into your tags, you build them into your photos, you build them into, there's all these different ways, into your blogs, into your everything, right? There's all these different ways to build them. And then Google sends their worm out and it crawls your site and it finds these and it says, oh, look, they have 5 of those on that page. Huh. And then you linked them and it gets really deep then. Then we just go really deep with it. But right there is the only part you need to understand. Google finds it. And then it says, okay, well, they have that. Let's put them in the rankings. And so that's what we basically do with these keywords is we take them, put them on the sites, put them in the tags, put them in the places, and let Google have their way with them. Just Google can come find them. So you use the keywords and the phrases on the page copy. And then you need to make sure that you have more than 500 words on each page. I know this can kind of be hard. Most pages I see are like 250 to 300 in the beginning, but Google doesn't really like those pages as much. It likes words. I mean, that's what it crawls. It likes pictures that have the right words on them and the right alt text. Angela's going to talk about that. But if you look at this, our average blog or content page that we write for our clients is 1,200 to 3,000 words. 1,200 to 3,000 words. That's a lot of words. But it's words that have these keywords in. They're words that make sense. And Angela's going to talk more in depth on SEO because I'm going to try to stick here just mainly on the simple SEO. Okay, so you remember from earlier I said you keep the shorter at top and longer at the bottom? Guess what? This is where it comes into play. These keywords, you're going to have some of those shorter keywords up top. You're going to have those key phrases up top. And then down below, you're going to enter those into paragraphs. All right, so let's look at the metadata. So this is inside of our page builder. I'm actually going to jump off the camera here for a second because I'm going to make this bigger because that's really hard to see for everybody. All right, so the metadata, every builder is different. If you're using WordPress, it's different than our builder. If you're using whatever, like there's hundreds and hundreds of builders out there, but they should at least all have a place for metadata. And so you have your title, you have your description, you have your keywords, and then you have your author, and then your social image. And the image is important for other reasons, but Angela's going to dive a little bit more into image and everything. But basically, you want to make sure that title isn't just, ABC home buyer. Okay, just your name. Okay, it's sell your home today, ABC home buyer. Okay, so there's an action in there. There's a keyword in there. Okay, so there's a key phrase in there. There's all that stuff built in. SEO page description. It needs to be a good little description. Okay, but you don't want it to be like 500 words on here. You want it roughly anywhere from 120-ish to 160-ish would be a nice little paragraph or two. So then you want to take those keywords for the page and key phrases, and you throw them into the keywords. And so that is going to help because this is the stuff that your site builder, as you're building your site, pushes to the top and Google crawls real quick and looks through and it kind of glances at it. Most people fail at doing this simple thing. I'm not joking. You can't even imagine how many sites I look at. And this was never done. The only reason I ever failed to do this is if I have no desire, like if I don't do description, I have no desire for that site to be ranked because I know that page is going to switch very quickly. Event pages, I may not do that if it's a one-time event, for example. But if I'm going to just use that same page for a very long time to build that event for a long time, I may start to do that. So there's just, with real estate, you want this page to be there for a long time. So you're going to use those tags properly. H1, H2, H3, and paragraph. You're going to start with 10 to 20 keywords. Things that your people will search. Just think about that. What would they search? They probably won't search as much we buy homes as they'll search sell my home fast or buy my home. like they're not going to say we buy homes because that's what you guys would say. But a lot of people do that. And it's funny. Now, there are some people who search it. I will be honest, they do search it because they see we buy homes all over the place. And they're like, oh, I'm looking for one of those we buy homes places. But you will have a lot of your competition find it too. And actually, somebody and I were talking the other day, and he was talking about how he had JVers dropping stuff into his PPC campaigns. JVers were dropping properties that they wanted to JV. And he's like, dude, I'm spending money on all these JVers clicking on my stuff. And so it's like, how do you strategically get the right keywords that gets your seller, but not your JV? And then how do you have the proper software set up to make sure they're protected and your ads are protected? And then using metadata, you make sure you use that. Use the title, use the description, use the keywords, put a photo in there. Okay. Make sure that's all done, because when you do that, it's one step further that nobody else is doing. And then Angela's going to be talking about ranking those photos in just a few minutes. So we're coming to the end of what I'm talking about here. And then Angela's going to be jumping on here. And the last thing is to connect it all to an automation or a human. And I'm going to jump back on, speaking about humans. There I am. And I'm going to come back in. Should have drank my water before. Man, I haven't been drinking enough. I'm like, moving on. Is everybody doing good in here? I hope everybody's doing good. Free SEO keyword research tools. We'll throw some in the chat a little bit later. Jesse, I'm not going to try to go through them all because I use a lot of paid ones. So I don't use the free ones as much. So I want to make sure I throw the right stuff in there. So, but we'll make sure we get that in the chat a little bit later. So yeah. And if Angela, if you have any off the top of your head that are free ones, then you can do that. One of the ones that pops into my head, actually, I'll just say this one right now, is just get a Google Ads account and use Google Ads. Like, it's free. So you don't have to run an ad to get it. Just when you do, if you're signing up for a brand new account, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but I'll just talk about it now because this is fun too. But make sure you do not do the it's like a walkthrough setup. Just go straight to the account, because then they're going to want you to launch an ad and they're going to want you to do it their way. And don't do that. Just set up the account for the free Google AdWords account and do it that way. And Google will literally tell you all the data. You can buy a lot of paid ones that will watch the words and all that kind of stuff too. That's a lot of times what we do, but that's just because we do this on a much different level. So yep, Angela agrees with me on that one. Awesome. So let's connect this website and all these forms and everything to an automation and a human. Let's look at that. So first, I want you to understand the severity of what happens when you don't follow up with people. And I'm talking about following up on your cold calling. I'm talking about following up on your website leads. I'm talking about following up on anybody and everybody. Okay. Follow up, follow up, follow up. The fortune is in the follow up. 78% of customers, these are Google stats, 78% of customers purchase from the company who responds first. Remember what I said about calling that line and not answering? Calling that line, what do? They move to the next one right away. Like, I don't give anybody time. I know I don't. Like, if I want something, I want now. So like if I call a company, oh, they didn't answer. Okay, next one. And I just use like Google Business as like a directory, like nope. I got somebody. So what if you could just have somebody get a text if you had to miss, or if your salesperson missed, they get a text. Hey, how are you doing? So follow up. Sales conversions are 391% higher in the first minute. Let that soak in. 391% higher in the first minute. If a new lead request, I was looking at one and reading the other, request is not responded to in the first 5 minutes, there's an 80% decrease in conversion. 5 minutes. So 1 minute, look what it does. 5 minutes, look what it does. Over 50% of companies take 5+ days to respond to new leads. That's horrible. And people say that they don't get leads. 5 days, 50% of what? Like, that just frustrates me. Like, I'm like, like, follow up, people. Follow up. So what's better, the bot or the human? Both. Okay, let's just use both. Come on. Nobody wants to bot 100% of the time, but no human can reach them 100% of the time. So do both. So basically, looking at a CRM, which is a customer management system, I'm going to simplify it here for you. Somebody comes in, they fill out the form on the website. Okay. It throws them into an automation. That automation throws out an auto response to them, lets them know, hey, we got this. Let's set you up on a calendar, or let's do this, or let's do that. Whatever we set as that next thing, let's do this. Let's get you rolling. It throws a task into the human. So the acquisitions manager gets that and says, oh, look, I got a property. It texts them, it pings them, it does whatever we set it to do, and it lets them know, and it throws it into the pipeline, which is like a Scrum board. Like instead of having one of those physical boards, you have a virtual board. That's all your pipeline. Like, oh, who's new? Who's in discovery? Who signed a contract? And it's just like right there. You know what properties you're trying to dispo. You know what's going on. It's all digital. It updates when one person updates it in the system, because you have multiple people in there. Once you have a team and everybody's doing something in there, it updates it for everybody. And so what this does is it causes speed. It personalizes it with that human, and it organizes it. And in the end, what do you get from that? When you have speed, personalization, and organization, you get more conversions. You get more conversions. And so you've got to have a scaling mindset, guys. A scaling mindset, not a hustle mindset. How can I get more conversions? How can I build a system that works? How can I have a system that works? If your goal is a 7-figure business, but you have a 5-figure system or mindset, you will fail. If your goal is a 7-figure business, but you have a 5-figure system or mindset, you will fail. Your CRM should work for you, not against you.